Lil Yachty. He's an artist who you may be familiar with, particularly in America, I would say, more so than the UK, with some of his minor, pretty well received hits over the past few years in the world of pop rap, from his Lil Boat mixtape to beyond, with some well-known and well-established singles such as freaking Minnesota. Minnesota was a pretty big track for him. Of course, there was the track that he did with Kyle as well, I Spy, which again was a pretty big track for him. And of course, more recently, we have to talk about Poland. The the fantastic little 1 minute track that is so addictive and needed to be longer. I would have put it on my year-end list if it were a longer track, but every time I hear it, I just want more. But all of those things I've just said about Lil Yachty, throw them away, scrap them, ignore it, don't even acknowledge its existence, because this man has decided that rap is no more. He is not doing that thing anymore. For better or for worse. Perhaps it's better, perhaps it's worse. We shall find out in this review. But what I will say is that it's daring, it's bold, it's unpredictable. It's really, really brave that he would do this, because for what this artist represents, Lil Yachty is a bit of a punching bag in the world of hip hop, right? Anything he's ever done, he gets slated for. In his interviews, he's been slated for those as well. He's always had a bit of a kind of punky, against the rules, rebellious attitude that people have kind of mocked in the past. That time when he said Biggie Smalls is overrated, for example, I kind of might agree a little bit with Biggie, a little bit. But anyway, you know, all those kinds of things has always just made him not really taken seriously. Kind of a bit like Lil B when he first came out. Just totally laughed at. His style, his aesthetic, his look, just all totally dismissed by hip-hop heads and many other folks as well. And to just decide that you're going to switch genres out of nowhere is super bold. He already gets hate for everything he does. And to be fair, some of his music has been terrible. We can't forget that. But this guy could easily get even more hate for switching things up and going into a different direction. This is what I mean. It's an artist that just represents individuality. He doesn't care. I don't think he gives a shit that people are probably going to mock him for this and take the piss for everything he does. He's going to do what he wants to do, and that I respect. I love it, actually. I think it needs to be more welcomed, really. I mean, not in the way that some artists do, where they're trying to just be edgy for the sake of it and just be in your face with it, like a Youngblood or Matty Healy from the 1975. You know, those kinds of folks that are just so self-righteous and up their own arse that it just becomes really annoying. Lil Yachty's doing it in a bit more of a tasteful way. He's just kind of accepting, like, look guys, I'm here to do what I'm here to do, and if you like it, cool, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And let's be real, it's good. This is a good album. This is a good album, man. I'm impressed with this. Right from the get-go, the Black Seminole, which is an opening track, which feels like it's shooting for something so epic and grandiose in a way that you'd expect from like Funkadelic in their early days, you know, starting the album in such a mad way like this, just really, really going at it with the psychedelic fusion sounds and the spacey rock sounds. I'm not going to put it on the level of like, you know, something like Funkadelic would make. I'm not saying it's as good as that. My point is it's that it's as bold and it's as absolutely unpredictable as that. And then Diana Gordon coming through with the vocals, my friends. Oof, really adds a great addition to the track. Similarly to what we've heard her do with Eve Toomer on the track Kerosene, Diana Gordon might be the go-to lady for these kinds of tracks now. She has a great tone to her voice. She knows how to work it in with the instrumental that she's working with. Oh man, sounds so good. Then you've got The Ride, which clearly has its influences from artists like Unknown Mortal Orchestra or even Tame Impala, with how psyche pop it is, while also being very, very sunny and sunshiny and just sounds really blissful in that kind of way. And going into the more pop sound of things, I want to mention Drive Me Crazy, which is the hit from this album. is the hit. The vocals sound fantastic at the beginning, and then Lil Yachty comes through as well with a really nice little catchy hook that gets really wormed into your head, into your skull. It sounds really great, and the funky sounds of this track I really like as well. Less of the psychedelics on this track, but more of just a straight up nice little funky pop tune, which I just think sounds great. It sounds like something that you'd hear from a Calvin Harris album, but done well, because Calvin Harris albums just aren't very good. Even though he's trying so hard with this funky pop sound, he never seems to get it right, but this track nails it. And I also want to mention I've Officially Lost Vision, which is a track that really reminds me of the creative approach that Tyler, the Creator, would take with his stuff. They're doing different things. Tyler's obviously doing a bit more of like a soulful sound on albums like Igor, but that kind of like pushing the sound in a slightly different direction in the creative way that both artists are doing. It's hard not to make comparisons in a similar way that it would be easy to compare this album to, you know, Awaken My Love, where you've got a rapper that's just going broad and changing their sound completely, and you could understand why someone would make that a comparison. But I think there was a bit more of a classic sound to Awaken My Love, whereas Tyler and Lil Yachty are taking their sounds in a bit more of a modern direction, I think. And whether it pays off for them or not is entirely up to you as a listener. But I really like this track anyway. Love the wobbly vocals on Say Something. I think this is a really good sounding track. And then the coming of age sounds, more sort of like MGMT type sounds of the track Should I Be, is really welcomed as well. So yeah, there's lots to like on this album. There really is. There's lots of great crescendo moments where the tracks just burst into psychedelic blissfulness. There's some really good hooks. There's lots of interesting directions that some of the tracks take instrumentally, of course, as well. I think one of my issues, funnily enough, bringing up Igor, is the fact that the vocals don't necessarily always work for me, and I don't really think it's actually necessarily how the vocals sound, because I think they're serviceable for what Lil Yachty is attempting to do. It's more of just how sometimes it doesn't really seem like he's got many ideas, or doesn't really do much with his vocals on some of the verses, or maybe some of the moments where the tracks are trying to go a bit bigger, he's kind of just riffing and just kind of doing anything. I would definitely say We Saw the Sun is one of the best examples of that. If there were a track that embodies what I was just saying there, this track is it. Because I think the crescendo comes quite early on in the song, and he's kind of just doing anything with his voice. Some of the verses doesn't really feel like there's much of a direction to it. It's almost like the track wasn't really made for anything else but just for that big moment, and I don't really feel like it's quite as exciting as I'd hope for it to be. And some of the other tracks as well, like I say, on the verses, I'm just not sure where he's really taking his voice. It does feel like a bit of a toying around type album. Like, it's a great direction for him, and he could make something absolutely fantastic in the future going in this direction. But for me, the standout tracks like Should I Be, Drive Me Crazy are the best of the best, but I don't think there are quite as many great moments like that, and it just slightly falls short. But massive respect for what he's doing. I really like that he's gone out and done this. I'm going to go 7 out of 10 for sure. I think this is really good. And yeah, regardless of the score at the end of the day, this is potentially the best thing he's ever put out. So that should matter more than the score I'm slapping on this, really. But if you do need a number, you need that out of 10 ranking, then there it is for you. But even still, really good stuff here from him. And yeah, I want to see where he goes in the future. If he ditches this and does something totally different going on from that would be mad. But I'd be here for it, because I think he's got the potential to keep kind of surprising listeners in this kind of way. So yeah, I'm happy with this album. I think it's really good. And that's it from me. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think. Subscribe if you haven't already as well. Have a good day, and goodbye.